Hello and welcome, everyone. We're excited to have you all attending today's webinar. I'm Jim Olson, Assistant Executive Director for the NTCA, and I hope all of you and your families are healthy and safe. Today's webinar is titled Cleaning, Sealing, and Troubleshooting Solutions for Porcelain and Stone Surfaces in Today's Environment. The webinar will look closely at the hygiene challenge we are currently facing and how the cleaning and treatment of tile and stone surfaces is critical in maintaining a healthy environment. In addition, Mario will also cover installation and maintenance solutions for large format tile and strategies for removing the nesting ground for germs on frequently touched surfaces. Our sponsors for this presentation is Fila Surface Care Solutions. Please look for their advertisement in Tile Letter Magazine in multiple digital formats. Before we continue, I have some business to take care of. Today's webinar will be muted. Please use the questions area on your computer to type in your question. We will answer your questions at the end of this presentation. All of our webinars are available to watch at any time on the NTCA YouTube channel shortly after the webinars are presented, within 48 hours, somewhere in that range. Please go to the NTCA YouTube channel, subscribe, and you'll be notified of all upcoming NTCA videos, including all technical webinars. This gives you an easier access to watch all current and past programs at your convenience. We will no longer have them archived on the NTCA website. If the audio on your computer is poor, call the number on your invite to listen on your phone. All right. It's my pleasure to introduce a first-time speaker for our NTCA events, Mario Parra, Sales Manager at Fila Surface Care Solutions. With over 30 years experience in the flooring sector and a proven customer satisfaction record, Mario is dedicated to servicing the tile and stone industry. He's an expert in all surface treatment methods and has a passion for finding solutions for hard-to-solve problems. Having collected a broad range of skills, he enjoys sharing his knowledge through in-person and online training sessions. Mario, I'm excited to present you to everybody. Looking forward to a great program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to welcome all of you who are here in this webinar, and hopefully we can learn some innovative things about cleaning and sealing and how to take care of surfaces in today's world. Again, I know that we probably have people from Canada, US, Europe, and sometimes I think maybe a few out in the islands. So welcome to all of you. Okay, guys, let's dig in. Let's talk first about today's environment. I know that probably 6 months ago, nobody could really imagine what has happened to the world today. Cleaning was always been very important. Even when you were growing up, I'm sure your mother or parents told you, hey, make sure to wash your hands before you eat, do this, do that, maintain cleanliness. But it certainly was driven home recently regarding the recent COVID-19 problems. But let's move on. Today, we have a totally different situation than we had maybe 6 months ago. It's important to know factual information. If we really don't realize and listen to what we heard and it's not factual, we may be doing the wrong thing and be very happy about it. The CDC, it's a very good source of information. They talk specifically on how to disinfect. There's a misconception going around that you just go to the store, buy a disinfectant, pour it over your countertop, you kill everything, and you're ready to go. Obviously, that's not the way to go. It just doesn't work well that way because there's this problem of dirt and grime that could be on the surface, covering your germs or interfering with the disinfectant effectiveness. So CDC talks about various steps that you need to do for maintaining a clean surface. And the first one is removing of the germs by cleaning the surface with a soap or a detergent that will actually remove most of the germs. And then once the surface is clean, then you go ahead with your disinfectant if you are willing to use disinfectant as prescribed by the manufacturer, which is a little bit different. A lot of them say 99% effective about killing germs, but you have to read the instructions. It's just not spray it and wipe it. That doesn't work. But anyway, maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Okay, disinfectants is defined as chemicals that kill germs on the surface. And surface which are dirty need to be cleaned before disinfecting. So this is why cleaning is important. Eliminating dirt and stains is a simplest way of creating to avoid creating a receptacle for germs and bacteria. If you have a dirty area, unfortunately, germs get trapped behind, germs grow, and they just reproduce very, very quickly. Our own technical manager, after some research, has come up with this statement, which is true and certainly has been proving, is usually to disinfect before cleaning surfaces, because through the cleaning process, we actually eliminate the habitat where germs and bacteria grow. So it just emphasizes this, okay? It needs to be a multi-step setup. You cannot show up and just disinfect. It just doesn't work. Cleaning is sometimes even more important than disinfecting. And our own head of technical research and development, Maria Soranzo, talks about, cleaners remove 70% of germs and bacteria due to the chemical action of the cleaner and soap. So just by cleaning, you definitely are ahead in having a clean and safe surface. This next slide is a little bit complicated. It has a lot of little information, but I will tell you the main thing about it that you need to remember. Speaking specifically about this coronavirus, there is a dispute among scientists whether the virus is alive or not alive, or is it just a genetic setup or something like that. But what is for sure, and it has been documented, is the part where if you use soap or detergent to clean a surface where this virus exists, this soap breaks down the covering, the protection of the virus, and it changes the virus genetically so the virus becomes ineffective. So by just cleaning properly, you are going to, in fact, kill, the virus, or actually making the virus ineffective. And that's basically what is in here. Now, let's talk a little bit about disinfectants. I mentioned this before. Disinfectants are worthless if you just spray and wipe or get little wipes and go over, because most of them require dwell time. Most disinfectants may require up to 10 minutes to eliminate bacteria on the surface. And according to the ISSA, the surface needs to remain wet for entire dwell time of disinfectant. Otherwise, it is not guaranteed to be effective. All these products, they give you 99.9% kill of germs. You need to read the instructions, because they all fall into something like this, where they ask you to leave the area wet for a certain period of time. If you don't, you're just wasting your time. It did not do anything for you. And once the surfaces are disinfected, the virus returns after just a few minutes. So it's very important to keep cleaning throughout the day. And one more thing about this, okay, make sure you're using the proper cleaner for the surface. I have to tell you that being in the front lines, I've heard many story where the people have damaged beautiful marble countertops trying to disinfect it by using the wrong product. Yes, they probably did kill the germs, but they also killed the surface. So it is not worthwhile to just put anything, to dump Clorox on something, you know, and then expect to be okay. If you use just plain Clorox on a countertop, that Clorox will eventually find its way to your body. So be very careful with this. So what's the best way to keep, you know, surfaces clean and safe in today's world? Well, again, I mentioned this, use the right cleaner for the right job. It's important today to keep cleaning, especially in a workplace, for example. You want to make sure that everybody is content with the workplace. They're not afraid of the area harboring germs. And the best way to do this is to do it with some, you know, a very good spray, a cleaning spray that will remove surface dirt and anything that could be lodged in the countertops and desk and whatever areas that we touch frequently. Sprays are perfect for counters, tables, desk, and the thing about it is they're easy to use. They're ready. There's no mixing. They're ready to go. Okay, so this is something that is highly recommended. Also, it's safe to use in most families if you use you know, a neutral cleaner that will take care of surfaces. It's certainly something that you have to keep in mind. You don't want to be using something in your home that is going to make the kids sick or something like that. Again, when your customers come to you and they ask, what can you use? A spray cleaner is the best. You don't have to worry. Here's the thing: when you buy a concentrated cleaner for everyday use like this, is that you have to rely on the person to mix it correctly. A spray is already at the proper mixture level. You know, it talks about the shops and offices. You know, they need to be clean and safe for all of our employees and fellow workers. Neutral everyday cleaners are best for household surfaces. You're not going to damage anything. You're not going to leave a residue, and they're good in LVT, wood laminates, and also obviously porcelain and stone and you know, glazed tile, glass, and all of that. A properly selected neutral cleaner should require no rinsing. This is very important, and should leave no residue where germs and bacteria can grow. This is why if you go to the grocery store and get just any cleaner, you may be compounding your problem, because a lot of cleaners leave residue. You use it for a week, for a month, and you have a problem in your hands. So make sure that the cleaner that you use requires no rinsing and also leaves no residue. Degreasers are very helpful in everyday life. If you really have dirt or really have grease in a particular area and you want to remove that, of course, a degreaser is the way to go. You can use degreasers in many places. You can use it out in the shop if you're doing, you know, mechanical work. If you're at home around the kitchen, you spill grease, it can be used. So this is a very good product to also have around. and you know, they're easy to remove stains and kitchen residue. Now, let's talk about, let's move on, change gears a little bit, and talk about pH scale and cleaners, and what cleaner to use where, and why do they work, and how to select the proper cleaner. When we look at this pH scale, you see on the left there's 0 and it says acid. On the right, 14 and alkaline. In reality, you know, it goes farther than 14, and I'm not sure if it goes into the negatives on the left, but maybe it does. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's just to show you a little bit about what works where. In your left, you have your acids. The acids, just so you know, Coca-Cola is 3.5 on this particular scale. This is why you've heard in the US anyway, where people use Coca-Cola to clean maybe their battery contacts and all that. The only problem with Coca-Cola is it has a lot of other sugars and all that, a lot of residues, which obviously cannot be used in most places. And on the other side, ammonia. Now, acid cleaners or acid-base cleaners are perfect for removing grout residue. They really remove what we would call inorganic stains. Inorganic, it's something that does not have carbon. And organic, obviously, it has carbon. Organic doesn't mean that it comes from Whole Foods or something like that. It just means they have carbon. We ourselves have carbon. So we are organic beings. So anyway, when you have an acid cleaner, this acid cleaner or detergent, it's great for removing the #1 problem that I find when I go into a distributor or a contractor or, you know, a home, and they talk about, oh, my tile is horrible, it's changing color, has track. It's usually just grout haze that wasn't removed properly, and now it's mixed with dirt and many other things. So in order to remove cementitious grout haze, now be aware of this word cementitious, because in the US, there's another type of grout which is taking a hole and it's increasing in use. It's called a chemical grout haze, and they're different animals. Now, outside of the US, cementitious is still very strong, and cementitious is a type of traditional grout where you mix it with water and so on and so forth. In order to remove a cementitious grout haze, you need an acid-base cleaner. This acid-base cleaner, I notice I said a cleaner because, you know, during many years they've used acid. I mean, you talk to a contractor today and they tell you, oh, my grandfather used an acid wash to remove the grout residue and it was beautiful and there was no problem. Well, this is true. And some contractors are doing that still today. And you know what? There is a problem. And the problem comes because even the most inexpensive grout today, the most inexpensive grout has a lot of chemicals. They put chemicals to prevent cracking, to prevent color changes, and many other things, you know, manufacturing chemicals. So if you were to use just an acid clean, you will remove the cement part of the grout, but all the acid residue, I mean, all the chemical residues will be left on the tile. Now, at the time of cleaning, you probably won't even see them. But give it a few days, and as people start walking over them and dirt starts getting impregnated into these chemicals, then is what the problem comes. So whenever you're doing a cleanup, it's important to use a detergent which is acid-based. The detergent takes care of the chemicals, and the acid takes care of the cementitious part. Usually, you will find them in here, but anyway, there's really more to it. I mean, these acid-based cleaners, They take care of inorganic dirt like limestone residue, rust. They take care of plaster residue, wall paint, construction dirt in general. So that's what they're all about. Going to the other side, okay, let's talk about alkaline-based cleaners. And what do? They are basically cleaners that have carbon, and this carbon breaks down dirt, it breaks down grease, it breaks down grease, and wax is what I meant to say, wax and stains and all of this. So an alkaline-based cleaner is to take care of that. An alkaline-based cleaner cannot take care of cementitious grout, the same way that an acid cleaner cannot take care of removing wax from a surface of a tile. So, and frequently they're used, in all kinds of ways, and all they create is more problems. And then, of course, in the middle, we have the neutral cleaners, which the pH is around 7 to 8, somewhere in there. And basically, these cleaners are gentle. They do not damage sensitive stones or marbles. If you were to put an acid-based cleaner on a marble, you run into problems. Obviously, you would etch the marble. An alkaline-based cleaner, polished marble, may damage the polish after some time. So a neutral cleaner is a type of cleaner you would use with stone, used for everyday cleaning. It's a good maintenance cleaner for every day, and also for any delicate installation is really the way to go, because you don't want to damage the surface. Once most surfaces are damaged, you're done with that surface. You need to either resurface the marble if it was marble, or replace, or whatever. So be very careful. Both acid and alkaline are used on porcelain, on glass, on glazed ceramic. But if you get to stone, be very careful. I would recommend a neutral, or find out if the stone is acid resistant, which there's some out there, and so on and so forth. We'll get a little bit more into this in a minute. This is just a very good scale that gives you an idea of what works best. For example, and just to make it simple here, I have a rule, and this rule doesn't work all the time, but let me give it to you, and you think about this. When you're out in the field, you forget half of this stuff, I know, and then sometimes there's no time to look it up and all that. But the rule is this, okay? If your problem is cementitious, then an acid cleaner would do. And you're talking about porcelain, okay? You're not talking about specialty surfaces. If your problem is everything else, is alkaline, okay? That means if you have pet urine, pet urine is not covering all these things. But what could it be? Well, it's an organic stain, so you use an alkaline cleaner. So anyway, now we're going to review a little bit more in depth as to what they do, the cleaners, and then we'll do the same for the sealers. And basically, the inorganic stains where you would use an acid cleaner is cementitious grout haze. One thing that I forgot to say is before I move on, when we talk about cementitious grout haze, and I told you that a chemical grout it's increasing in popularity, especially in the US. A chemical grout has to be taken off with an alkaline cleaner, not an acid cleaner. I know that today most contractors use acid on everything. When they finish grouting, even though it was a chemical grout, they use acid to try to remove the residue because they think it's powerful. And the next thing that happens when it doesn't come off, guess what they do? They use a stronger acid and a stronger acid till they get to the point they probably would damage the porcelain or the grout or whatever. But remember, an acid-based cleaner for a cementitious grout, a alkaline-based cleaner for a chemical grout. Now, let me tell you what a chemical grout is, and you may recognize it. It'll be epoxy grout. It will be urethane grout. It will be any of these grouts that come already pre-mixed in a bucket and you don't use water. You may mix A and B, but that's it. There's no water involved, and they come, a lot of them today come pre-mixed in a bucket and you use it right out of the bucket. That's a chemical grout, and that's an alkaline type of residue that needs to be taken out with an alkaline. Anyway, going back to acid cleaners, and these are this here: concrete, sheetrock, rust. Here's a little bit about the acid cleaners themselves. They eliminate, again, I went over this, but let's go over it because I found out that a lot of times the important things, you have to talk about it more than one time, especially in a venue like this. Okay, they eliminate cementitious grout haze. They eliminate also efflorescence. Now, I know that we haven't talked about, but they eliminate efflorescence. Now, let me say something. Most of these cleaners do not stop at efflorescence. If there's efflorescence, and let me tell you a little bit about what efflorescence is if you don't know. If you're a contractor, you certainly do know. And that is, usually it happens through the grout joint, but sometimes to the stone surface and all that. But through the grout joint, if there's humidity below, that humidity evaporates when the sun hits it or there's a change in temperature, and that humidity brings minerals from below, and the minerals get trapped on the grout and eventually form on the surface of the grout as a powder, usually a white powder. That is efflorescence. This type of cleaner removes the efflorescence. It doesn't stop it. Usually, once you get efflorescence, it's difficult to stop it. I mean, there are products out there to stop it, but this is not to stop it. It just removes it and cleans it. Okay, and this will also remove soap scum, rust stain. Paint, you know, an acid base will remove paint, but make sure that the surface is all right to handle an acid base. You know, you cannot remove paint of a marble surface with this product. There are other products which are made to do so and safely remove the paint, for example, without damaging the surface and dirt. So basically, the point about this product is it's a very good product to use as the last wash for a contractor. This type of product is inexpensive. You know, it's not very much money, but the contractor, once he starts using this, he realizes that after he cleans with this product, he's done. There is no callback. There's no 3 days down the road. There's streaks, there's this, there's that, and then the meager profit that he might have made on the job, it disappears. So anyway, this is the type of product that if you're a distributor, or you should be pushing, because it really helps contractors, even though they're hard-headed, as you know. That once you're set in your ways, it happens to me. Once I'm set in my ways, it's very hard to change my ways. But this is that type of product. It talks a little bit about it. You know, it's also safe in porcelain, ceramic tile, acid-resistant stone. Now, I've been warning you about that. You know, acid and terracotta. You may ask, okay, what's acid-resistant stone? Well, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, but basically, it's a stone that doesn't have a particular chemical that reacts with acid. I believe it's calcite. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there it is. Okay. And it's great for ideal for post installation cleaning. It removes inorganic dirt also, you know. So basically, at the end of the job, when they drop the drywall and all kinds of things, and you grout it, you clean with this, and you're done. So it's a good thing to recommend to contractors. Okay, here's a specific situation where, uh, you know, when the contractor leaves, the tile doesn't look like you see it on the left. The tile probably looks like you see it in the middle. And then after everything dries and everything, you get the white haze on it. And then you get the phone call. If you were to use a product like this is what you add, and it stays there until it's time to clean and do maintenance cleaning on it. So you can see the difference. This is an actual job where the contract, I mean, the owner complained about the tile is changing color. It's fading. It looks chalky. Call the distributor. Tile is defective. Get it out. Replace it. So anyway, this happens frequently. Okay, look at this thing again. We're going to talk again in detail about alkalines. It's basically the same scale that we talked about in a minute. Okay, alkaline cleaners. Okay, they remove grease. They remove tire marks, chewing gum, thin set, and you may say, "Wow, wait a minute, that's cement. How can this be?" Well, most thin sets are cement is very minimal. Okay, they gone to the point today that they have so many chemicals that this is the only way to go. Urethane grout, residue, adhesive tape, markers, pencil marks, wine, coffee, rubber cup marks, and these marks are, you know, from moving large pieces of porcelain or quartz or something. And leaves, you know, I was in a job where it's outdoors, and it was in Maryland somewhere, and there were all these leaf marks that needed to be removed, and apparently every fall or something, you know, it needs to be cleaned because they leave the leaves on top of a concrete, and there you go. But anyway, that's that. Let's move on here. This type of product is generally used as a degreaser. If you go into a situation where it hasn't been cleaned for a while, you can see dirt everywhere. This is the type of product to use, alkaline cleaner. This will also remove ground-in dirt from porcelain tile, both polished and unpolished, you know, and again, for all the other surfaces. Um, it's ideal for maintenance of concrete. Concrete could get very dirty and all of that. And it's effective in natural stones. It removes water-based sealers, porcelain, concrete, terracotta, many uses for it. Just remember, if it's a cementitious problem, it will not do it. If it's rust, it will not do it. If it's an inorganic problem, it will not do it. It will do items which are based in carbon, organic stains. And all of these things that we mentioned are organic stains. Here's a typical area here where you know, and all of you guys have seen this. You know, it's a porcelain. Something like this happened to me once. I went to a Holiday Inn, and I think it was in New Jersey, and this is the floor exactly. Okay, and the owner was complaining that it's hard to clean. It's not what he bought and all that. And while I'm there, I see the lady cleaning. You know, it's a big area of the Holiday Inn floor area, and there's a lady cleaning with one bucket of water, one mop, doing the whole floor. You know, and it's a large reception areas where you come in and sign in and all that, and and they're going, basically all they're doing is moving this dirt from this tile to the next tile. That's all they're doing. So anyway, so I look at it and I say, oh, this is simple. I take PS87 right in front of the elevator, and I did one tile, and it was exactly this, you know. And the owner tells me, the owner wasn't there, but the general manager was there. He was impressed and all that. And about 30 minutes later, I get a phone call from the owner and says, you ruined my tile. Well, I don't know what acid you put on it, but you ruined my tile. I said, well, I don't know, sir. What do you mean? Well, the color is gone. I said, no, sir. That's the real color of the tile after it's clean. So he was very upset, and you know, some of you guys probably heard this story from me before, but it is true. I told him, well, sir, if you want it to match the rest of your floor, uh, I don't know if go to the hardware store and get a bag of dirt and spread it over it, and it will match. So anyway, the point is that this type of cleaning is easily attainable with this type of product. And once you show this to a homeowner and you say, look, the problem here is cleaning. Most of the problem when you go into a job with there's problems is grout, residue, or cleaning. They're just not being done. These people think that you put the tile down, the porcelain, and that's it, baby. It will stay like that forever without doing anything. Well, as you and I know, it's not real life. But anyway, uh, uh, let's talk about these other grouts, which I mentioned a little bit before, and that's the epoxy and urethane and premixed chemical grout hases. And you have to have a specific product to do this. You cannot do it with just any cleaner. A heavy duty cleaner that is meant to remove grease, even though it's an alkaline, it's usually not high enough in the alkaline scale. So there are specific products out there to remove chemical grout, and that includes, like I said before, epoxy, premixed grout, and so on and so forth. This is the result. Usually if you have chemical grout residue, you have a little sheen on the tiles, and after you use it, this is what you get. Now let's talk about neutral cleaners. Neutral cleaners are important in today's world because they protect, they allow you to clean very sensitive areas. These areas, otherwise, if you were to clean them with aggressive cleaners, you would ruin these areas. Not only that, they're usually the type of product you would use for everyday cleaning. You know, when you sell, when a distributor sells 1,000 foot of porcelain, this question comes up 100%. The owner says to the distributor, how do you clean it? The answer is like 1,000 different answers. You use water, you use vinegar, you use hot water, you use a steam cleaner, you use this, you use that. Just plain water. You know, I saw that one day. You just use plain water, that would clean it. So a lot of times what happens is the homeowner gets really confused. So he goes to the grocery store and buys the first cleaner that he sees and leaves a lot of residue and all that. A neutral cleaner is the way to maintain without leaving residue. Make sure the neutral cleaner that you're using is a cleaner that doesn't require rinsing and also doesn't leave a residue. If it leaves a residue, you're creating a problem six months down the road. All this residue is going to look very badly for you. Anyway, these neutral cleaners could be used for wall, floor coverings, anything like that. Let's talk a little bit about large format tiles. This is a typical problem with large format tiles. I'm not going to go into how to install them and all that. That's the NTCA's teaching part of the thing. I'm going to tell you about the problems and how to take care of some of the problems. They're obviously they have the same problems that regular tiles have, plus a few more. This picture frame is usually a problem because now instead of grouting the whole tile, they just grout the edges. And then later when it comes down to cleaning, only the edges are dirty. So, here's other examples you can see on the left, it looks totally picture frame, a beautiful tile, but there it is. And it becomes even a bigger problem now because there's large pieces of countertops and where these quartz pieces are used for floors, countertops, walls, and all of them need to be grouted. And again, this problem comes about. Also, another problem with these large format things is when they get installed, the back is not cleaned properly uh, because usually they have some type of magnesium dust that from the manufacturing process, and if it's not clean, then it becomes a problem. It's very important that the back is clean, not only the front but the back, because you don't want this big thing to start moving around on you and or contaminate the setting material. Another thing that you need to be careful is when you move these pieces. Usually you have to use suction cups and level bars and all kinds of things. All of these things leave sometimes, not every time, depending on the surface, leave marks like this, like you can see here. This type of mark is removed with an alkaline-based cleaner, generally, and sometimes you've got to let it dwell on the surface, so you can go ahead and remove these marks. They're kind of deceiving. You can only see them really well when the light hits it a certain way, but all of you that deal with this type of product, you are familiar with this. These are specific problems with large format tiles that you don't have with small ones. You also have the traditional problems, obviously, grout residue, epoxy residue, so on and so forth. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about sealers. I know that we need to, because there's a lot of confusion out there. I run every day into people who just pick the sealer off the shelf, whichever sealer they can reach, and sometimes the price is within their range, and they apply it into a surface. And really, all they're doing is creating a problem. They have their own sealer, their own application, and you feel like telling them, "Hey, read the label." Of course, you have to be a little more, flexible than that, but it happens. It happens. This happens all the time where you have external stone. In about 3 months, it turns black and all that. It really needs to be sealed. Anytime you install external stone, it needs to be sealed. And it could be just a waterproofing seal. It doesn't obviously need to be protected for stains. Nobody's going to drop wine usually on it or something like that. But water needs to be kept from it, or mildew will grow, or whatever, change color, or water efflorescence, or whatever. We'll talk about this, I think, a little bit more. But you can see in this picture, it's a very simple test to see if a surface is sealed. Some of these sealers are natural sealers, which means you cannot see them. You don't know if it's applied. Drop some water on it and see what happens to the water. If it beads, it's sealed. This is another way you can figure out, if you have your countertop and it was installed 5 years ago, is the sealer still working? Well, put a few drops of water and see what happens. If the water goes in and gets flattened, the bubble gets flattened, you better seal, or you're going to be staining the surface. And staining like it is on the left. Once it goes in, it's difficult to get those stains out. I'm not saying you can't get it out, but it's difficult. Okay, let's talk about the number one question when dealing with sealers. Okay. Well, we're going to tackle these questions with, well, what is a solvent-based sealer, a water-based sealer? And that is the number one question. What's the difference between penetrating sealers and topical sealers, water repellents, natural look sealers, enhancing look sealers? let's tackle the first one, which is solvent base versus water base. What's the deal? I mean, basically, okay, when we talk about a sealer being a water base and a solvent base, these we're talking about the way that the chemicals, the sealing chemicals, are transferred into the stone or the area that you're sealing, if it's terracotta, concrete, or whatever. Okay. Generally, you either use a solvent to transfer those chemicals in, or a water. We call it water, but it's a chemical water to transfer the chemicals in. Why would you need both? The reason, initially, many years ago, all sealers were solvent based because solvents penetrated, they still do, penetrated better, very compact surface. Somewhere down the road, some companies came out with water-based sealers. Frankly, when they came out with these water-based sealers, they were inferior in quality. So there was a stigma going around: a solvent is good, water-based is no good. But due to technical advances in the field, I wouldn't tell you every manufacturer, but most major manufacturers, there is no difference, no visual difference or no perceivable difference in the performance of a water base or a solvent based sealer today. But there's still the stigma. Some contractor says, I gotta have solvent base. Okay, fine, you can have solvent base. Now, solvent based sealers work better on a very high compact stone like granite or a quartz, or if you're going to seal a polished porcelain, okay, they work better there because the solvent tends to penetrate better. However, if you have a open pore stone like travertine or anything that is sandstone that absorbs a lot, and you put a solvent in, you may need to put a few coats because this solvent will go through, and if the travertine is open enough, it may come down at the bottom. Okay, so just from that technical point of view, okay, there you have a definition, but it's not always just that definition. Okay, and the reason is this: we as a manufacturer have realized that some countries, do not allow solvents, only allow a water base. So we have really worked hard to make the water base also work in areas where solvents before only used to work. So this is the general idea. Now, the difference between one another, the physical difference is the solvent smells. It has VOCs. It takes longer to dry. It's very sensitive to humidity. A water base has some advantages there. It doesn't smell. It dries a lot quicker. No VOCs, and it's easier to clean too if you get it on the the board or something on the baseboard or something. But so you need to think about this. Let's say you're a contractor and you go into somebody's home and there's people living in that home and you want to use a solvent, you better ventilate because the smell it will affect these people. They will tell you, oh, what is that smell? So you better open the windows, get some fans and do it. In my opinion, if you're going to go into that scenario, you should use a water base, and the customer would be a lot happier, and things like this, are generally, a water base is a lot easier to use for the homeowner or the do-it-yourself. Solvent base could become a problem in cleaning and so on and so forth. So this is a little bit about solvent base and water base. Okay. Also, Now, water-based works better if there's a high humidity. You know, humidity is a killer for a solvent base. If you're going to apply a solvent-based sealer and you're going to apply it outside and you see that it's going to rain, you better choose another day, or else you may ruin your application. So this is the scenario. Okay, today's water base are made so you can use in all surfaces. You can use it even in compact granite surfaces. All you have to do is, allow it to stay on the surface a little bit longer so it penetrates better. That's it. But the chemicals themselves are fairly the same. Let's move on, okay? What is the difference between a penetrating sealer and topical sealer? Penetrating sealer is the type of sealer which the word, its words say, the sealer goes inside the stone and it penetrates and it blocks the pores. But, one thing that I really didn't realize to not much recently is that that it really doesn't close the pores of the stone. It leaves a space so air can still transfer. We call that a breathable penetrating sealer. And basically, it's necessary if you're installing a stone with thinset or something where air needs to get to the bottom, or really if there's humidity and it needs to come out, or else if there's humidity and gets trapped, it could warp the stone, all kinds of things. So basically, this is important. What it does, it just closes the pore, so it blocks the molecule of water cannot go in, or stains cannot go in, but air can still go through there. That's a penetrating sealer. It doesn't leave a natural penetrating sealer. It doesn't leave anything on the surface. It leaves the surface looking the same. If a customer or owner tells you, I want to seal the stone, but I don't want to change the color is very precious to me, like it should be, then you need to use a natural sealer. It's important to know, if you use a different type of sealer, you could change the color. And then a lot of times when colors are changed, you cannot go back. But anyway, topical sealers are sealers which are left on the surface to dry, creating a layer of protection. Sometimes they're necessary not only the biggest reason you may do so is to create a layer of polish, shine, to make it look, give it a little wet look or something like that. That's a topical sealer. A penetrating sealer is usually about 60 to 70%, maybe 80% of the market today. Topical sealers are not used that much because they wear, people walk on it, they wear off, and but they do create a specific look that the customer may want. So there they are, and they still sell it. So anyway, water repellents. Most water repellents are just that. They're used for stone, and they're used in areas where they're vertical areas. Like when we began the sealer part or that stone wall. This is what you would use, a water repellent. It will keep generally not only repelling water, but some water repellents, make sure that the one you're using does that, will prevent mildew. For example, if you have a patio and this patio has an area where there's a tree and there's always water or humidity there, mildew creates there. If you were to clean that well and then put a water repellent that would also protect against mildew and other fungicides, then you would protect this area well. It works the same. You've seen it on buildings and all of that. This is an important thing to use, this type of water repellent. Now, the other thing that you will look at when purchasing a sealer or applying a sealer is it a natural look or enhanced look? We talked about this. A natural look is usually a penetrating sealer, and it doesn't change the color of the stone or change the slip resistance or anything, okay? Because it is a type of sealer that goes internally, okay? And it's a penetrating sealer. An enhancer sealer is also a penetrating sealer, but a lot of times is made so it enhances the color. Now, the best thing I can tell you, and I think it will register in your mind, is when you go outside and you have your sidewalk and you've dropped a little bit of water, you can see the enhancer of the concrete. The color of the concrete is enhanced. Okay, that's what enhanced sealer does, except that, you know, when the sun comes out, the concrete goes back. This doesn't go back. Okay, the sealer stays there. Now, I mean, the enhancement. There's two types of enhancement that you really are looking for. One is a matte finish enhancement. That's what you would get like when you were looking at the concrete outside. And the other one is a gloss or wet look. All these enhancements are to be picked up by the owner, you know. And you know, I would recommend in any type of sealing where there's going to be enhancement or anything, I would recommend to do a test and show it to the owner. A lot of these enhancements, like this matte finish enhancement, cannot be reversed. You can try put chemicals and perhaps you can lighten it up a little bit, but usually cannot be reversed. So make sure that it is something that is desirable for this particular installation. Uh, okay, let's talk about how do I apply it. You wouldn't believe, you know, all the problems. I mean, it's clearly in the label, you know, but people just don't read labels, or if somebody were to ask me, I would tell them or whatever. But it's on our website, whatever. But anyway, I think that most of the problem with application of sealers is because back in the old days, when sealers first appeared to seal a kitchen linoleum, it was done in a way where they would put the sealer, and basically it was a wax, and they would let it dry on the surface. Well, today, most sealers do not work on the surface like we talked about. Okay, so a penetrating sealer, you would always apply it over the surface using a lamb's wool applicator or brush and allow it to dwell on the surface for about 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes, you need to remove any remaining residue using a microfiber cloth. That's simple, man. Very simple. If you're doing a large area like I don't know, auto showroom or something, do it in sections. Don't just apply the sealer and by the time you get back to the beginning, it's all dry and it's been 2 hours. You know, think. So do it in sections. Uh, Sealers in themselves are simple. Now, I often get asked this question: should I do one coat, 2 coats, 3 coats? How do I know? Well, do I just keep pouring until I run out of sealer? Well, you don't, because that creates problems. Basically, you do 1 coat, okay, and watch the sealer. If there is no residue after the time that 15 minutes are up, you're going to need another coat. Okay, so keep that in mind, because you cannot apply the second coat right away. You got to allow this first coat to cure. So it varies. Generally, depending on the sealer, a water basis, you can do it faster, but it could be 2 to 4 hours or something like that, and depending on the manufacturer and the sealer. But if you saw that sealer disappear, it probably would need another coat. If after 15 minutes there's some residue, you're okay. Excuse me. Let me drink a little bit here. Okay. So after that, it's okay. If you're using a water-based sealer, generally it's about 4 hours before you can use the surface. A solvent base is 8 hours. So here's another point about using a water base. But Anyway, this is a simple way to apply. Okay, topical sealers, and these are sealers which are left on the surface, basically are installed the same way. And you, except you don't wipe it off, you leave it to dry. And if you're going for a polished look or a gloss look, and after it dries, it just doesn't look enough, you can always put another coat. And the more coats you put, usually the more of a polished look you're going to get. Uh, let's see. And I am done, friends. I hope that you learned something from this. Thank you very much. Jim, are you there?
I'm here, Mario. Thank you. That was a great job. Great presentation with a lot of information. Presented in a great way. Very easy to understand and very user friendly. So we do have some questions though, and these may be much more detailed than I can get into, so I'm going to ask you. So we have the first one is, how important is kill time with the disinfectant?
It's very important. If you don't allow kill time, it ain't gonna work. You need to look at the label of the disinfectant you're using. Most of them give you leave it wet for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Okay, so it's very important.
Okay. How come a lot of so-called natural green cleaners are harmful for natural stone, being to alkaline or a mild acid?
I'm sorry, Jim. Can you repeat that? I didn't get it all.
Sure. How come a lot of so-called natural green cleaners are harmful for natural stone, as opposed to like an alkaline or a mild acid?
Well, I think when they talk about a green cleaner, it just means that when you wash it down the drain, it doesn't affect the environment. You could have, I mean, green cleaners is one of those labels that anybody really could use. So I think it just refers to that point. Okay, you can wash it down the drain, and it will not damage the environment. Uh, in there, you may have alkalines and acid, but that's what I can come up with. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Next,
that's
yeah.
good. Can an alkaline cleaner start the stripping process of your sealer on the stone or sealer on a grout?
Yes, it can. Especially if it's a water-based sealer. If it's a solvent-based sealer, it's a lot more difficult, but it can happen, yes.
Does that include like a bio-based cleaner or a colloidal cleaner?
I'm sorry, Jim, I'm not familiar with those.
Okay, we'll skip that one for now. No problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mario. How about can water neutralize an acid cleaner, or do you need an alkaline cleaner to fully neutralize the acid and then rinse?
Yeah, you can use water if you do a good rinse without using an alkaline. Yes.
All right. All right. Next question. Can too much soap or surfactants in a cleaner add to the floor problems?
Oh, definitely. Because generally, the important thing here is residue. Yes, you can remove perhaps the dirt or whatever it is might be on the surface, but the actual soap will leave residue, and after a while, this in itself becomes a problem. And also not only that, if you use too much soap, it's hard to clean. Yes, to answer your question, definitely.
Okay. So how do you remove hard sea salt or swimming pool salt water that is on the grout and the tiles? Is it a big, it's on a big balcony or very close to the ocean kind of a thing?
Well, these things are generally inorganic, and by using an acid-based cleaner, you should be able to remove these things. Be careful, because also if you have a cementitious grout and you use this cleaner and leave it there for a long time, you may damage the grout. So follow the manufacturer's instructions on how to use it. but it should come off with an acid-based cleaner.
Yeah, and I would say that, Mario, for really everything, use the manufacturer's recommendations. It's very important to follow their recommendations. Read, like you said, read the labels, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, how does surface tension during the cleaning process affect the cleaner, or does it affect it?
Yes, it does. Surface tension is broken down by the physical movement. This is why anytime you're cleaning, you will either scrub if it's a heavy cleaning problem, or mop or something like that. Surface tension is definitely necessary, and sometimes if the tension is higher, you would need to do a better job at cleaning to get all the residue out.
What's the difference between slip resistance in a solvent or a water-based sealer? Or is there any difference for slip resistance?
There is none. Okay, if you're using, let's say, a natural solvent base and a natural water base, there's none, because both of these are penetrating and they go inside the stone. There's nothing on the surface. So whatever the slip resistance was on that stone or whatever, that's what you're going to end up with.
All right, great. I had two questions on that same one. So how do you remove auto oil from a concrete driveway?
Okay, auto oil is an organic product, so you would use an alkaline cleaner. Usually, when you have concentrated stains like this, you would use an alkaline cleaner, usually full strength, over the stain, and you allow it to dwell. Let me say this before, which I don't think I mentioned this. Most of these cleaners work better when they're allowed to dwell over the surface. Many a times they go and they put in the liquid and then they wipe it off. It didn't work. It's because they did not allow it to dwell. Most of the products will tell you, make sure you dwell. To remove this grease, auto grease, just put it over, let it sit for 15, 20 minutes, and then wash it off. It should work well.
Great. All right, our last question, I think it's a good one to end with. So if someone isn't sure what sort of stain they're looking at, how would you recommend testing to assess the best approach?
Well, a lot of times when I go into places and nobody really knows anything, which is frequently, you have to test. You have to get a little bit of the alkaline and test it on the stain, and then take a little bit of the acid, test it on the stain, because you really don't know what type of stain it is. And this happens frequently. If you know it's auto oil, you know that it's alkaline. But when you say, I don't know, there's a stain on my porcelain, then you have to take your best guess and test the products, different products on the surface.
All right. Well, that's a great way to end this program. Mario, you did a phenomenal job. I really appreciate you presenting this to our audience here. I want to make sure our audience knows that we try to do these webinars twice a month, and please register and attend our next webinar scheduled for June 13th. It's titled Large and Heavy Tile Mortars and ANSI Mortar Designations, and it will give you a lot of answers on that. So I want to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for attending, and Mario, great job. Thank you, appreciate it.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you, guys. Bye.